Good afternoon. My name is Trinity Lizalde. This is Supply Chain Management at American Military University. Today we'll be going over case study number 3, specifically on Tahindo's tea supply chain. Next slide. The first question in regards to this, we were tasked to make a diagram showing the supply chain configuration of Tahindo, as well as the flow of products and information within the supply chain. We'll do this by going over the next 2 slides. The first supply chain configuration that we'll be discussing today is Gote. Gote is a popular jasmine tea developed by Tahindo Industries. First, we'll start off at the tea plantations, where the jasmine tea leaves, liquid sugar, and water are interchanged at the manufacturing plant. At the manufacturing plant, the tea is bottled into 2 different types of packaging. The first type of packaging we'll be discussing is a glass bottle, or the return glass bottle that is 220 milliliters. The second type of packaging is a Tetra Pak, which is a one-way type of package that the tea goes into. Once bottled and packaged, the Gote becomes a ready-to-drink tea. Once the tea is developed, it's sent to a distributor. The distributor also acts as a third party, but only for a one-way packaging type of products. The distributor sends these products to wholesalers and retailers, which ultimately ends up in the consumer's hands. Once the product is consumed, it goes off into 2 different directions. The Gote ready-to-drink tea that was packaged into Tetra Pak one-way product is at its end of its life cycle. That packaging is no longer reused and sent and disposed of. The second type of packaging, which is the return glass bottles that are 220 milliliters, are corrected and sent back to the manufacturing plant, which they are washed and reutilized into the manufacturing process. Next slide, please. The second type of supply chain configuration we'll be discussing is FTE, which is Tahindo's fruit-flavored ready-to-drink tea. We'll start off at the source, where the fruit extract from 9 different flavors, liquid sugar, and water combined, and sent to the manufacturing plant, where they're bottled in 2 types of packaging. The first type of packaging we'll be discussing is the glass bottle, which is the RGB 235 milliliters. Keep in mind that this is a different type of size that is packaged for the Gote in a glass bottle. The other type of packaging we'll discuss is the Tetra Pak, canned, plastic bottle, one-way products. Once this fruit tea is already packaged up, it becomes a ready-to-drink tea in 9 different flavors. And just like the Gote tea, it's sent to the distributor, and a third-party distributor will also distribute this product, but for one-way products only. From there, it'll go to a wholesale and a retailer, and just like the Gote, end up in the consumer's hands. And just like that, the Tetra Pak, the cans, the plastic bottles are a one-way product, and that packaging is at the end of its life cycle and disposed of. The return glass bottles, which are 235 milliliters, are collected, washed, and recycled back into the process to make the FTE ready-to-drink tea. Next slide, please. The next thing we'll be discussing is we're told to compare the bottled Gote to the FTE in terms of challenges in managing their supply chain processes. The FTE bottles are 15 milliliters, larger than the Gote bottles, and they come in 9 different flavors. The fact that these bottles cannot be utilized with the Gote bottles proves inefficient and creates a challenge when attempting to meet the demand that fluctuates regularly. Next slide, please. Discuss the causes of temporary demand and order increases in the supply chain. In my opinion, the dependence of RGB glass bottles for certain products that fluctuates. Major holidays also create a temporary rise in demand, as retailers tend to stock up on tea products as consumers raise their use during these seasons. Tahindo also offers its customers a 2-week notice on price hikes, allowing them to adjust accordingly when demand for this tea goes up on a regular basis. This demand usually goes up when the price hikes goes up, as well as when the return glass bottles are not regularly collected. Next slide, please. If you were the supply chain manager of this company, what would be your suggestions in the second meeting? I personally would suggest that the Gote and FTE bottles be the same size, 235 milliliters. This size is chosen because of the fact that the larger bottle gives us the opportunity to put more product in our customers' hands. This would also significantly reduce the dependence of the return RGB bottles that increase the price of this product and allow bottling of both gote and FTE ready-to-drink teas to be interchangeable. Next slide. How does information distortion happen in the supply chain, and what would be your suggestion to reduce it? In my opinion, information distortion occurs when the price of one of Tehindo's products is forecasted to rise. This is because of the RGB bottles not coming back at the rate that's required to develop the product. Tehindo should reduce the need to raise its prices by consolidating the types of RGB bottles it uses. Last but not least, it needs to not release the forecasted price hike to its customers. In an effort to help them, it tends to hurt them in the long run. Usually, customers hoard the teas because of the fact they know that the price is going to go up. When demand goes up, it's not because they're actually consuming the product, but because they know the price is going to go up. Next slide, please. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages of vertical integration and outsourcing for Tehindo. Vertical integration serves its purpose by streamlining the production process from the source to the consumer. Companies such as Tehindo, who own companies in its production cycle, are able to secure production capabilities of its product. This allows you to have full control of the production process because you own every aspect of it. You're not relying on companies outside of your control to make for a certain phase in your production cycle. In contrast, though, the cost of being vertically integrated and a production process may not always be cost effective. It is very expensive to be vertically integrated because you have to pay and control for every single step of the production process. If you cannot afford this, it's not very cost effective and you end up losing money in the long run. Outsourcing can also be a cost effective tool to address the needed production cycle. Companies like Tehindo use a third-party vendor to distribute its products where it cannot reach, but at a loss of having direct control of that same phase of production. Next slide, please. Now let's talk about Tehindo's production problems. There are too many variants of the production of the FTE teas. The FTE teas are really popular amongst teenagers and the modern markets, unlike the gotes that have always been a solid source of revenue for Tehindo. The problem with FTE teas is that it makes a company look poorly when they can't manage so many variants. Out-of-stock situations for certain variants, this primarily because of the unpopular flavors that basically consume so much space in the production cycle, while they have the very popular ones that you can't keep in stock. These excess flavors that are very unpopular create excess inventories for the retailers, distributors, and retailers alike. Now let's talk about some solutions for these problems. My first opinion was to reduce the FTE variants is cutting the unpopular flavors such as lemon, orange, and blue, and will significantly reduce these variants. These flavors have historically been the most unpopular and should be cut. Number 2, do not release the 2-week price hike forecast to your customers. The increase in orders is not from a real demand of consumption, but a price fluctuation. If you don't release this information, demand will be managed. Number 3, consolidate the RGB bottle size for both FTE and gote teas. This would be free the RGB bottles to be returned to be interchangeable for both brands and reducing costs. Next slide, please. This concludes my presentation concerning the supply chain for FTE teas, gote teas, and Tehindo supply chain. Thank you very much.